Hello, my name is Mark Hobart, and I'm a catastrophist. Together with my colleague Kola here, we're going to present test video number 10, part 2, What is the Truth? It's part of this series on video 10 of unmasking the truth. Of course, you got to know what the truth is. It's part of the four-part presentation. The fundamental purpose of catastrophic thinking is to formulate public policies which are to guide us before, during, and through catastrophes. To formulate such policies requiring sorting truth from all the other assertions. What is the truth? Well, the knowledge that separates simple facts from all other assertions. It is a skill that must and can be learned. The easy answer is just the facts, ma'am. Sergeant Joe Friday Dragnet TV show. Two primary methods we use to determine what is truth are the legal trial and the scientific method. Legal trials use the foundations of evidence, federal rules of evidence, and how do you do it in a courtroom? You go to proof of facts. It's a series of, it's an encyclopedia of various methods of proving facts, whatever they could be. These books, there's over 60 of them, proof of facts, first and second, third, started in 1988, and they add new ideas of things that need to be proven, showing you how to do it, what questions to ask, gives you a little summary of the law, provides a checklist and examples. A special topic in federal courts and state courts is the concept of hearsay. A hearsay is an out-of-court statement done by somebody who's not in the courtroom, and it's being offered by the attorneys to prove the matter being asserted in the statement. Well, is it true or not? Well, generally it's not allowed because there's no cross-examination. Cross-examination is how we test the truth in courts. Problems with hearsay are manyfold: insincerity, faulty perception, deficiencies in memory, errors in narration. All these things can be pointed out in the course of cross-examination. You have a Sixth Amendment right to cross-examination. There are many exceptions to the hearsay rule in the federal rules of evidence. Admissions by a party and excited utterance during a crime or accident. Recorded recollection. James Comey did this. He'd meet with Trump and then he'd go home and write everything he could remember, he says, because what he's doing is just creating evidence. Public records, ancient documents, family history. For example, grandma's letter can be admitted into evidence, even though she has passed away many years ago, because she's talking about the family. Declarant unavailable, and the records created in the ordinary course of business. Many, many more exceptions to the hearsay rule. The other approach is the scientific method. It's a procedure by which you collect data through observation and experiment and formulate and test hypotheses. So the steps are: 1, state the problem; 2, gather the information, do background research; 3, form a hypothesis; 4, test the hypothesis with experiments; 5, analyze the data and draw conclusions. Either the hypothesis was supported, then you got to repeat it several times just to flesh out the facts, or the hypothesis was not supported by the evidence in the experiment, so then you go back to step 3, formulate a new one. 7, document the procedures and data. Number 8, publish the documentation. Number 9, invite and welcome criticism and challenges. Totally unlike what we see in politics and in the media today. They try to suppress anybody who doesn't agree with them. That's not science. Then the retest is done by others because the truth is reproducible. Then you do it to infinity, formulating new hypotheses to further flesh out what is the relevant variables. What are the relevant variables? And never forget the difference between truth and facts and theories and hypotheses. Science never actually tells you what the truth is. You get closer and closer to the truth through the experimentation process. Bad science. There's a poster there I encourage you to get called a Rough Guide to Spotting Bad Science. Nancy Pelosi was famous during COVID. pandemic to say, follow the science. But liberal media, politicians, other scientists rallied around the motto to suppress, cancel, ban, bully, and ridicule other points of view or other policies or other ideas. Clearly this was not science. There's the poster again, and I encourage you to go out and find it. Just do a Google search for spotting bad science, and you'll come up with this, and you should get it and study all the different ways that you can see what's good science or bad science. Bad science is easy to spot when it's intentional or evil. I have references at the end of this called Bad Science, Dark Science, Hitler's Scientists, Fraud in the Lab. There's an example down there at the bottom. But even well-intentioned scientists can be bad science. Read Scientific Blunders. That's the book that's down there. And other references on SV40. DNA research by Nobel Prize winner Paul Berg. They were trying to splice together DNA, mixing cancer cells with the common bacterium E. coli. The researcher Robert Pollack said, if this escapes from the lab, you will have SV40, cancer, that replicates in step with E. coli. That means it would be contagious. So, you got to recognize bad science. How do you do it? Well, you study the scientific method, statistics, critical thinking, questioning, skepticism. There are books on questioning down there. Dwight Eisenhower warned against deferring to science and scientists and experts, because we could become the captive of a scientific technology elite, which we did during the COVID epidemic. Science is a pursuit of knowledge by people, and it has the same flaws that all other people have. Past, pride, arrogance, stupidity, selfishness, and stubbornness. There's been too much deference to science. I offer here the skill of labeling. Recognize the many forms of assertions that are not fact. We need to practice labeling them. And I have some mnemonic devices that I developed. The first one, misleading data by words, and the misleading models, inferences, summaries, labels. You try to summarize your raw data into these various words, descriptions, narratives. Those aren't facts. Misleading data by substitutes. Maps is a common one. Illustrations, simulations, likenesses, exhibits, samples, algorithms, graphs. These are all examples of substitutes for the raw data. They are not facts. They are derivatives from the fact. Topics, theories, opinions on dogma, opinions on ideology, promises, predictions, projections, extrapolations, estimates, editorials, conjecture, claims, contentions, and speculation. Those are all not truth. They are not facts. Rig slams. These are things that are used by politicians and the media to do character assassination, rumor, insinuation, innuendo, gossip, slander, libel, anonymous sources. Oh, I see a lot of that. Association, guilt by association, misinformation, or smears like mudslinging. Other examples of tossing the truth. That's where something that's true is either twisted, obfuscated, slanted, spun, or suppressed. My first mnemonic device was duped. I saw this when I was reading green literature and the skeptics literature about global warming. There's dubious data, universe definitions, probabilities that are remote do happen. C is in spurious correlations. The C is silent because it's really not a fact. Extrapolations and distributions are not always normal. Then I will go on to 13 types of deception. What is a lie? The opposite of truth. I've come up with 13 types of deception. Pure falsehood, omission of material information, magic. They use sleight of hand and illusions to entertain us, but many times they don't tell you that they're engaging in magic. Rational lies, the rationalizations, narratives, topics, tossing, rig slams, duped. fallacies of logic, and I'll have some in the appendix at the end of the presentation. Flattery, which you think is truth because it compliments you, but it's used for ulterior motives. Red herrings, I have a list of them in the appendix. And finally, the truth. How can you present the truth? Well, there's a number of objections that lawyers use. It's irrelevant, it's immaterial, it's incompetent, or it's emotionally prejudicial. So that's what lawyers try to do. We try to use truth to twist things by introducing other points. The big lie is that they try to formulate policy and frequently appears in times of crisis and catastrophe. If you tell a lie often enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. Joseph Goebbels, Adolf Hitler, and Mein Kampf. And then there's yet another danger. And Mother always told me, be careful who you love. Be careful what you do, because the lie becomes the truth. Michael Jackson hit on that in his song, Billie Jean. The weaknesses of both legal trials and the scientific method is that we rely on experts. Impeaching witnesses, expert witnesses in trials, see the appendix. There are many resources on weaknesses of experts, like past, that can be found in the appendix. Media talking heads are full of lies, and yet they pretend to be experts. You know, my favorite is the letters on political issues signed by Nobel Prize winners. They're not experts in the area that they're opining or signing the letter on. That is a problem. Experts tend to assert themselves where they're not experts. I think you need to practice labeling assertions for beginners. I have these rich sources of falsehoods. ESPN coverage of the NFL draft. It's all imaginary until the draft happens. Media coverage on election night is full of misrepresentations, maps and things like that. Weather forecasts, all not fact yet. They are just predictions. Stock investing advice, YouTube, just about anything on YouTube. Election advertisements about the opponent. Physics textbooks, my favorite. Because you can read through a physics textbook, go 40 pages without encountering a single fact. It's all theories, assertions, speculation. Advanced is history books, and I start with the appendix. Down here is a pile of books called Lies My Teacher Told Me, Murdering the Truth, or Murdering History. Then you can read history books and try to sort truth from assertions. Your history books are full of them. This video will only whet your appetite to know how to recognize the truth. The appendix contains a few references on each skill touched on in this video. Practice the critical thinking skills of part 1. Labeling assertions practiced in part 2. But the real dangers of experts will be examined in part 3 on the fog of crisis. And here's the appendix. And you can see it. And I'll end all of my videos the same way, with a prayer for peace.